Evening and welcome to the Pmbc meeting for Wednesday, April 10th, 2024. We'll call this meeting to order. First order of business is to approve the warrant. Can you bring that up, Kirby? Or do you want me to? So it's a fairly lengthy warrant. Vertex Company, $24,422. Actually, Brian, do you want to go through this? This is your packet, right?
It may not be all of mine, but yes, I would think that a majority of this is for both the Senior Center project and the Indian Hill project. We did not get the warrant for February the Senior Center on the previous warrant, so this is a combination of the February vendor invoice packet for the Senior Center, the March invoice packet for the Senior Center, and the March invoice for the Indian Hill project. What the invoices are made up are the monthly invoices for ourselves at Vertex for project management fees, LLB Architects for the designer fees, and Commodore Builders for the construction fees. I do not believe we had any other invoices that would be paid or that were put on those invoice packets at this time. So.
Okay, so the one item that I do not see in here is for green.
Right at the very top, Steve.
Is that at the very top? Oh, green. Okay, thank you. Yep, that's for the environmental study for the Senior Center. Okay. So anyway, the total for this warrant is $1,125,755.28. Are there any questions or comments? Is there a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve the warrant for $1,125,755.28.
So we'll do a roll call vote. Bob?
Bob Rama, yes.
Stacy?
Stacy, yes.
Bartlett?
Bartlett, yes.
Mike?
Mike Scuduto, yes.
And Steve Moore, yes.
What about Peter?
What's that?
What about Peter?
Marilyn, I'm not a voter.
Oh, you're not? Oh, okay. I thought you were by now.
No, he's just what do you call him?
Auxiliary?
A non-voting member. So the meeting minutes for 3/27. Unfortunately, I did not see them prior to the meeting, so we're going to defer that to the next meeting. Shaker Lane feasibility study. Stacy, you want to give us some good news on that? You're on mute.
Yes. So yesterday we met with the MSBA. It was the Shaker Lane Design Building Committee. I met with the MSBA. The objective was to vote on which firm we were going to use. So we had two firms approach us for bid for the project, and it was Feingold, Fitzgerald, and Studio G. They both had wonderful presentations. It was a really hard decision. We actually had to submit to the MSBA to actually be able to interview them because they're so similar. They're both were gonna do a really good job. So we actually just kind of wanted to meet up with them and just see how they presented and how they would engage with us. So we ended up landing on Studio G as our architect. Excuse me. It was a close call between votes, but we ended up swinging the votes towards Studio G. So they're great. They're really engaging. So I think they're going to be really great to help us educate the community, which is like a really, really important thing for us. So I think that was one of the big things that we really saw in them is that they were just very engaging and informative, and they had some really great plans for us, really great ideas that obviously we have to go through. But so I think our next stage, I think, is the contract with them. I believe that's our next stage. But now that MSBA has approved them, we can move forward with putting together a contract and then starting the feasibility studies.
So they'll be submitting their proposal.
Okay.
Yep. Okay.
Yep.
All right. Any questions for Stacy? All right, we'll move on to Littleton High School roof update. Excuse me. So I got an email from Brian Pasquale today. The contractor has finished all the punch list items. He did forward a change order. There's some unforeseen work. Kirby, if you could bring that up. Brian did. I sent this out just before the meeting. I'm not sure how many people had a chance to look at it, but Brian indicated that the change order items were valid, and he recommended approving the change order in the amount of what is it, $7,928. If anyone has any questions or comments, otherwise we'll move to approve it. Is there a motion to approve?
I'll
Motion.
make a motion to approve it. $7,928. Bob Romley.
Okay, thanks, Bob. Roll call vote, Bob. Oh, we need a second.
Second.
Sorry. Stacy seconds. Roll call vote, Bob.
Bob Romley, yes.
Stacy.
Stacy, yes.
Mike.
Mike Scaduto, yes.
Bartlett.
Bartlett Harvey, yes.
And Steve Moore, yes. Thank you. And then next order of business is the senior center. So Brian, take it away.
Hello. And so Senior Center, a lot's been going on. Thanks to everybody that was able to come out for a groundbreaking ceremony. That was it was done very well. Very some good speakers, and I thought it went off very well. A lot of excitement, and getting I think we really rallied a lot of the community and to show them the good project that we're going to put on. We've had a lot of progress right here. We had a large pour this afternoon, putting up some foundation walls on the Shattuck Street side of the property. What I'd like to show is a quick rundown of our monthly report, and I do have Mike with me. He's our site manager as well. If he wants to go over some of the report, I can scroll up a little bit. I'll go through some of the administrative stuff here from a safety perspective. We've had no safety issues. Commodore and ourselves on site really stress making sure that everyone's adhering to all the proper PPE, checking in with us in the site office. So things have been really good from a safety perspective. We're also tracking on schedule, tracking on budget. We will go over a couple of the changes that have been submitted that we're recommending for tonight. Quality, we do have our testing agent that's on site. He's been testing compaction on some of the backfill that we're doing around the footings, as well as testing the strength of the concrete that's being poured in the footings and the foundation walls that's being done right now. We will have them back out on site once steel arrives for any moment connections or welding tests that need to be done as well. And then overall, no issues right now. We have been engaging in some FF&E. We have Jessica from LLB here on the call as well. So engaging with furniture companies, gathering our budget for that. We've met with some AV companies about putting in the AV scope. We're working through those numbers as well as we had a meeting with the security vendor for the installation of the access controls and the security cameras that will be going throughout the structure. As we have these meetings, we're also identifying any value we can get out if there are details that maybe aren't needed, For example, we're having a lot of coordination with the engineers and the filed sub bids about the coordination inside the building. One thing that shook out from one of those meetings today is that some of the dry sprinkler piping that we're seeing in the building is no longer going to be necessary. So we're going to be asking for a credit back for all of that work, hopefully to not only offset some of these change orders, but also improve our contingency to go back to the town if not needed at the end of the project.
Hey, Brian, why is that not needed?
So what we had is, I think when the fire protection designer had put those up in the areas where you can see, if I scroll up in this area where we have unconditioned space. Yep. That designer was not aware of the changes that we've had with the roof and the insulation that's going to be on the roof panels themselves. Therefore, the unconditioned space does not need a dry system because it will be tempered. The insulation is going to be above it. So it's a omission from the design, yet it benefits the town that we're not going to need that at this point. So it's going to it's going to reduce the amount of coverage that we need from a dry system. We're also looking into our front canopy here. Because of the code, we do need we need sprinkler coverage out here. And we're trying to minimize the amount that we're going to need, and that might result in a credit back to the town as well. So those are the positives. We do have a couple ads that we're going to show you today. One of the larger ones is based on structural steel. The operable partition that we have in the multi-purpose room that's going to be able to divide the multi-purpose room up, that's acoustically sealed. Because of the way that shuts, we had to add structural steel and some concrete and some additional structural elements that added quite a bit to the project, which is why we have these meetings, in order to make sure that the town is getting the best value that they have. So,
hey, Brian, can you push that report a little bit to the left so it's more centered? There you go. And then kind of scroll down as you're talking about the different.
You got it.
Thank you.
Yep. So, Mike, if you want to go through some of the milestones that we got upcoming.
Yeah. So far we've continued with the excavation of both the foundation footings and also the installation of drainage structures. So that's continued throughout the month. And as Brian mentioned earlier, we've completed, I would say 2/3 of the foundation footing. And then we have about 40% of the foundation walls placed. So we're on track to get our foundation complete milestone at the end of May. And then probably shift that structural steel milestone that might be in closer to June instead of July.
Yeah, I can jump in here with the coordination drawings that we've done. We're able to get this done early. We were able to get the steel shop drawings in quicker, shake out any of the issues. And we've been told by the steel manufacturing company that we will be able to get them the material on site in June, if not even better than that. So that's going to help our schedule, get the structure up and get this building weather tight for the fall. We did have temporary power also installed. We had Littleton Light on site. We had that pulled and run to the building. And we will be getting, within the next 2 months, we'll be hooking up our utilities to the water out in Shattuck Street, as well as making any connections that we're going to need to the sewer system. I did have a conversation with Bob Romley about, we'll be working with Littleton Water about the application, about the flow rates that's going to be coming out of this building and when this is going to need to be switched over to the new force main system. Any questions?
Yeah, Brian, as I remember, there was an issue with the folding partition in the library. Is there something about folding partitions that makes it difficult to figure out the structure?
Yes.
Okay,
And with this partition's a little slightly different than it is at the library. What we have is kind of a dual track that opens up and folds into the wall in two separate areas. It kind of creates a winged pattern as it's folded and collapses into the wall. That was the impetus for the additional steel that needs to be put in the ceiling in order to hang the weight of this partition. And then that weight needed to be translated down into the footings.
Every job that I've ever done with a movable partition has had similar challenges.
okay,
Yeah,
Yeah, and
I've,
if I may, it depends on whether it's hung, if it's ceiling, if it's supported on the beam above, or whether it's floor supported, and that changes up drastically between products. So depending on what model they submit on, it's something that we can't necessarily design in the beginning to accommodate all of those options.
that makes sense.
I mean, it should have been carried in the budget to begin with. Every company I've ever been at, that's standard operating procedure. But
Yep. And to your point, Mike, we do have a couple allowances and holds to try to offset some of these
Yep.
steel prices, knowing that there was going to be some coordination with this. Yeah, and we've tossed, I started out with saying, a shower curtain. Let's just put that in, but obviously we want to be able to hit the needs of the department. So, just a few. Yes, sir.
Two quick questions. So now we have a full floor to ceiling divider between the two locations, and I thought before it was just up so high, which is good from an acoustics perspective. Second thing is the question about, will there be a pass-through door in this partition?
I actually don't know if it's been released. I'll have to pull the submittal on it, but I do not believe that the intention was the pass-through door. I know that was asked, especially because of where the AV. Are you asking because where the AV office is and the access to that room?
Part of it, sir, but just more of from an accessibility perspective, not having to go the long way around the short pier.
Yeah, understood. I'll pull the submittal and I can actually send you what's been submitted to date.
Thank you, kind sir.
You're welcome. Now, a lot of these pictures are from the month of March. We're 10 days into April and we've made pretty significant progress. If you were there yesterday, you can see the amount of forming that we've done along Shattuck Street with the tall foundation walls that we've done. This is mainly the excavation for the footings that we've done. Scroll down a little farther, some of the below slab prep and compaction that we're doing, as well as the rebar layout. And some of the step footings that we've done here. We also coordinated any penetrations that need to go through the foundation wall, entering our MDF room and our electrical rooms, which are going to be in the back corner of the building right here. Those have been coordinated and sleeved as well for the pours we just had today. Here's the final product of the footing, ready to accept the foundation wall. And here's a picture that maybe bled in a little bit into April, but this is some of the structure that we've done here that was poured this afternoon.
So, Brian, I really want to compliment you on your monthly report. It's a huge step up from where we were on the library, and it's very informative.
Yeah, thank you. Yep. And it's it's a testament to the team. We take a lot of info from the contractor. We have Mike assembling all of the documents, putting this all in one swoop, and then our accounting department does a really good job summarizing the budget, and that translates to the tables that you see in the monthly report that kind of help how we're tracking. So the last thing I just wanted to bring to you, last meeting that we did change orders, we recommended what we're calling owner change order number 1. Those are highlighted in blue. If you need me to zoom in or not, let me know. We are bringing 6 more potential change orders to today. The large one that we spoke of was it's not only the steel at the operable partitions. and if we want to go through the backup, we can. That makes up about 19 to 20,000 of that would be the steel and the fabrication and the installation of the added steel. The other 20 was a lot of the updated details that were needed from the structure and from coordination drawings that we've had. So my only comment to these is if these kind of larger change orders are the ones that we're shaking out during the coordination process. And, you know, the hope is that we're front loading a lot of the project with some of these changes and figuring out any conflicts that we had early on in construction, so that we don't pay the price with any rework later on in the project.
So
we
Brian,
yep.
Brian, let me ask you, is this coming out of owner or contractor contingency?
Good question. So what we're tracking currently here is the owner contingency. We do also track the GMP contingency that Commodore is holding as well. What that's held for, they have 3 buckets. They have holds, which is scope that they did not account for, that they need approval from us in order to use. They have allowances for things such as winter conditions. Trying to think of a couple other allowances. We had some electrical procurement allowances. And those are items that they also need to show and justify using that money. If that doesn't get used, it gets turned back over to the town. What we use for this construction contingency would be changes that are either unforeseen conditions, a drawing error, omission, or a redesign that needs to happen, or a change in scope. And so we go through each change that it happens. Ones that are going to fall into the owner's construction contingency, we put into this log and add it to our kind of invoice packet on what we're recommending.
So maybe I'm missing it, but is there anything in this log that identifies owner contingency versus contractor contingency?
No, because this one's going to be all owner contingency. And what we can do is we can put other logs together in the monthly report to delineate what is a GMP contingency, as well as the logs that they have for allowances and holds. And then what we use here is the owner's project contingency.
Okay, and then you can have a summary sheet, right?
Sure. Yep.
Okay, thanks.
And so what we have here, what we started in our budget that was approved when we started the project was a contingency of $356,190. It's very similar to what they have in the GMP contingency as well.
So can you amend that to say owner construction contingency?
Yes.
Yeah, just so it's clear.
Definitely. And as we get farther along, a lot of these numbers start fleshing out a little bit more. What we show here is what we're estimating what that number could be, what the initial submitted was, and then if there are any comments or any pushback from the engineers or the OPM on the price, we put in the pending amount and what we're recommending. So the green are what we're recommending today. We are recommending that we take the credit for the excess soils on the project that was able to be taken by the DPW, as well as reused for certain backfill in certain areas around the perimeter of the project. That resulted in a $36,000 credit back to the town. We have a fire alarm module interface with the BDA system. This was agreed that it is a valid change order to the electrical contractor. However, if we do find out once the structure is built that a BDA system, which is a bi-directional antenna for the police and fire, is not needed, we would be recovering this money back in a credit change order back to the owner at that time. But we can't do the tests for the BDA until the structure is up and enclosed. So the next is overflow piping at the kitchen roof. During our coordination, we determined that there was missing overflow piping up in that area of the design. I talked with the designer, and this was an oversight on the piping in that area.
Brian, I got a question on the antenna.
Yep.
What's the library using for an antenna?
They do have the BDA. And so we did the same thing where we put provisions in the wall to see if we needed it. We had the fire department come down and work with the electrician because they owned a test. And what they do is they grid out the building. And what they do is they walk around and make sure they have proper cell coverage in every spot in the building and in the basement. And because they were built into the hill, they had some real spotty areas down on the basement floor. So therefore a BDA was put into that building. That came at a change order to the library. And so with this project, we wanted to make sure that this was installed as part of their base scope. And if it's deemed that we don't need it, we would take it out as a credit. So we have that in their schedule of values. We would know what that monetary value would be.
But we'd still put the conduit in.
Correct.
Yep.
Correct. The next change is a kitchen equipment credit. So what we did is we had Commodore carry all of the kitchen equipment and the installation. We took the list and we went through each line item and determined there were some items that could still be reused by the senior center staff. These are smaller items. A lot of it was like a coffee cart, a drink dispenser, and another piece of equipment. And so we took that out of the contractor's scope. It resulted in a just under $5,500 credit back to the town for that work that we can move back. We can reuse at the old senior center. And then the last is a light fixture change. It was determined that what was spec'd for a light fixture did not come, or it was either they do not make anymore, or the finish that they were looking for was not acceptable. So we worked on a few different options. This was to change one of the light fixtures. There's multiple light fixtures, but to get the fixture that's going to be the desired finish of the interior. So this one was relatively small for $1,710. That's been reviewed, and we recommend that as well. So in total, the owner change order that we're recommending today is for $12,670.02. We do have the packet ready with the cover page on it that'll be signed by the contractor and the designer, and we would send to you, Steve, in order to amend the contract so that they could bill against this when the timing's right. We don't pay them until this work has actually been completed. And just to give
Brian, let me ask you a question. I know we don't have a facilities manager in town, although we should. Editorial comment. Was there an attempt to coordinate any of the light fixture types, or the bulbs with anything in the library or any other building in town?
Yeah, so that's one thing I took a charge at during design, is we wanted to make sure in public construction you can't make anything proprietary. However, you wanted to make the basis of design as close as it can be to the systems that you have in your other town buildings. So that would go for, not even so much the light fixtures, but maybe the lighting control panel and the software that's been used. Filter changes in HVAC equipment that possibly can be reused in multiple buildings. And then even things as small as toilet partitions and accessories that need to go into bathroom areas that we worked with the custodial department on making sure that they've got the same equipment. So whether they are completely compatible, I'm not 100% sure yet, because all of the submittals haven't been approved. But it was certainly kept in mind during design. We provided a lot of documentation from the library to the designers when doing their basis of design.
Okay, thanks.
Just to round out the PCO log for interpretation at the bottom here, what we do is keep track of a code on this side of the log, which will show you kind of breaking up the pie on what the changes are, whether it's been a request by the owner, a coordination or omission on the drawings, the scope change, any unforeseen conditions, inspector requests, or claims. This is something just to keep an eye on and keep track so that we can understand if there are any red flags, if, for example, the owner change requests are getting astronomically high, we want to be able to show that to the committee so that we have our head around exactly where these changes are coming from. And then on the left-hand side, we do a breakdown of what's been approved to date, what we have remaining, what's estimated and pending, and what would be remaining in the contingency if we approved everything that's on the list right now. So this will get updated on a twice a month schedule. It'll be put into our vendor invoice packet, and then we present to you guys a current PCO log at these PMBC meetings to proceed with any recommended change orders at that time.
So Brian, what would constitute a claim?
It's a good question. I think a claim would be if there's maybe a dispute between contractor and owner about. Sorry, my battery's running low. If there's a dispute about work that's happening now, and a contractor issues a claim to cover their bases on it, we would put it in that category. And that would mainly be post-construction.
Did he freeze up or did we lose him?
I think he's plugging in his computer. I think we lost him.
It does appear that his screen is frozen.
He's not listed on the participants.
Yeah, he's good.
I just
All
got
right,
a
thanks.
text from him saying he'll be.
His computer died and he's plugging it. He'll be right back.
I just got a text confirming that from him.
So how many people were at the groundbreaking?
There was quite a few people there.
Like
They had
40, 50?
they had some chairs set up, and they ended up bringing out more chairs for the people that were there. And there
That's great.
was people that were
Cool.
standing too. And they did the shovel in the sand with a whole group of people different times. Oh, Kirby's got all kinds of pictures.
Cool.
Nice.
There you go.
Right, here's Brian.
My apologies. I missed charging by 3 seconds on that. So sorry about that. Talking too long, I guess. So that is what we're recommending today for potential change orders. With no questions, or if anybody has any questions, please let me know. In the event that what we're recommending today, a better option is found, or if something changes, we would pull any of those PCOs out of the owner change order, present them at the next Pmbc meeting with any better pricing for that. So that's our update for the senior center.
What was the total amount of that change order?
Yes, it was
12,670.02. Was that?
That's correct. It's $12,670.02.
So does anyone have any questions on the PCO log.
Oh, I looked at it.
Is there a motion? Excuse me, is there a motion to approve for $12,670.20?
So moved.
Oh, okay, second,
Okay, roll call vote, Bob,
Bob Rama, yes.
Bartlett,
Bartlett, yes.
Stacy? Was that a yes, Stacy? Okay. And
Yeah.
Mike
Yeah.
Mike Scaduto, yes.
and Steve Moore, yes. So the motion carries. Thank you. Anything else on the senior center?
Yeah, I got a couple of questions. Brian, that light problem that the neighbors were complaining about, did we get that taken care of?
We did. So we had Littleton Light out there today to do the temporary lighting, met with the crew down in the parking lot. They went up in the boom truck and angled them down as best they could. Michael and I also did a walk down to where the source of the complaint was. It's actually pretty far down Shattuck Street, where the complaint came from. And I think it's a much better solution of where we're at right now. If the complaint is still there, we have some other options about possible wall packs on the town hall in order to light that driveway. That was our concern, is to make sure that the lighting remains in that driveway portion of the driveway. So
Have we had any other neighbor complaints on the road?
no. So we had some feedback about cars and trucks coming down the road. We've kept it to as minimal as possible. What we do is the parking is down at the church. We do have deliveries and concrete that's coming in. We queue any deliveries up on King Street, and then we bring them in one by one through our logistics plan. So we're keeping everything down to as minimal as possible. They also hold a subcontractor meeting every week. They reiterate time and time again, make sure that we're going slow. We're being as cognizant as possible of the residents around there. So, we haven't gotten anything in the past 2 to 3 weeks with any feedback from the residents. So,
Is there any
So
thought, Brian?
was that light pollution issue a function of taking down the trees?
no, it was a product of relocating the light that was at the corner of the tennis courts and relocating it to next to where the EV charge or the electric car chargers are in order to get that section of the parking lot.
Brian, is there any thought of making that driveway that comes in off of Shattuck Street before you get to the building a one-way? So we're not running two cars back and forth on that road?
That is the plan. And so right at the beginning of our construction, we determined that was going to be the best route of action, is making that driveway a one-way going into the parking lot.
Yes.
And so Commodore has ordered proper signage for that. We did not want to flip the switch on making this a one-way without having proper signage for that. He's expecting the signage this week. At that point, our plan is to notify the town hall and get it out to all the employees first, and then start it on an official day, whether it's a Wednesday or something like that. We'd have everything in place. And then we'd have Michael there on site, keeping an eye on it, being outside, making sure that the traffic's flowing properly so that people can get adjusted to it. But I agree that it needs to be a one-way.
Yeah.
Brian, when you decide to pull the trigger on that, can you give us in advance a slide that we can put up on the community bulletin board, please?
Yes. Yep. We've got the logistics plan ready to go, so that'll be sent out with it.
Also, if there's other significant things, Brian or Mike, that you feel that need to be communicated, more than happy to have you guys in the studio and do a recording.
Very helpful. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's it for me.
Okay, let's move on to Indian Hill, Brian.
Indian Hill, we've had quite a bit of progress on that as well. We had our general contractor bids were due last Friday. We did have we had a few addendum go out that ended up pushing our bid date by 2 days to Friday. We received 2 bids. The bid documents were estimating a construction cost of around $2.1 million. The low bid was Classic Construction of Littleton, local firm. Their bid was 2.18. So it was really close in line to what we had projected a year earlier when we did get a cost estimate. So, I mean, as we've said, this project has been fast-tracked from a design standpoint to get it out to bid in order to have our bid in hand and bring to the various committees. So, working with Ryan Ferrara in the town administrator's office, he needed those bids. Once we received the bids over the weekend, I put together the total project budget, which was presented to the select board and the FinCom on Monday evening. I don't want to take up too much of everyone's time. I do have what was shared, and I did tell Ryan that I wanted to share this with the Pmbc to make sure that there are no questions from this committee, as this is what would be going on the warrant for town meeting on May 7th. What we did is we put in column Q here, this is what we had as our original budget a year ago when we had a feasibility study and an estimate put into a budget. We have changed some of the scope. We've taken out some of the site work. We've taken out some of the improvements on the exterior. But we had a rough idea on what we wanted to do. So I put in this column what our new total project budget is. These are with current numbers that we have. I've worked with Nancy Glencross, with Steve Mark, with Alicia Day, putting together some quotes from other vendors for other things such as moving, new technology, fiber to bring into the building, security costs for access control and security throughout the building, as well as getting the soft costs, not only from us as the OPM, but the designer. I've worked with the town as well to determine the level of OPM services that we need here. Obviously, we're working down the street at the senior center, so we can try to get some economy on that, working at both sites. And so that's what these numbers reflect. We have construction administration fees from the architect as well as his mechanical, electrical, and plumbing consultants. I'm going to scroll down unless there's any questions. We've also contacted the town's insurance agent about providing us a quote for builder's risk insurance. I did put a placeholder here of $25,000. That might be a little light. It might be to the tune of $30,000 to $35,000. But we're waiting. We'll be giving them all of the information. We can get a proper quote on that to get coverage and purchase it through the town, as that can be a little cheaper than running it through the contractor. We have some, like I said, we have some moving quotes that was provided to us, some admin costs, construction testing, just in the once some things are opened up. We want to make sure that we have things are tested properly. We have our base construction bid, like I said, of $2.18 million. That is the base scope. When Ryan presented to the select board and the FinCom, there was one alternate as part of the base bid, and that was to deduct the roofing scope. The deduct of this scope would be $189,000 removed from this number. It was the determination of FinCom and the select board that they'd like to keep that scope in the project, as the $189,000 to redo the roof was a cheaper number than what we had originally estimated a year ago. And so with the amount of life left on the roof and having the number that they had, they feel it's advantageous for the town to take the roof replacement.
So Brian, did the base construction cost that was done a year ago include the roof?
Yes.
Okay.
And that number at the time was over 300 grand.
Yeah. Okay.
We have been working with LLB for the furnishings and fixtures. We've worked with both departments who's going to be relocating some of their own furniture that they currently have in their offices. So that's helping offset some of these costs. But Jessica's been working with state bid list furniture companies on outfitting the new furniture that's going to be needing, particularly in the basement. We do have some costs for low voltage wiring. Nancy's helped us work with that with a local electrician. The base scope does not have any additional low voltage ports, so we're putting in a number that we have a bid from to put into this budget. We have fiber costs as well as LELD costs. LELD said they are going to be applying for grant money for this work, which would help save the town some money, but we are budgeting for it in the event that the grant money does not come through. We also have security costs at $46,000. That was a quote that was directly handed to us by Neshoba Security, who has been kind of the town's vendor when it comes to security for all of the town buildings that we have right now. We actually met with them regarding the senior center this morning.
So when you're talking about security, is that card access?
Correct. So access control as well as interior and exterior cameras.
Okay.
Now, the one thing I did want to discuss was the contingency on here. Because in my opinion, how fast we needed to get this design out to bid, there may still be a lot of unknowns. This is a renovation on a building that we are going to be opening things up, and I think there's going to be some stuff that we uncover that that we weren't expecting. So on a new build, for example, like with the senior center, you know, we're carrying anywhere around 5% for our construction contingency. With a project that's a little smaller, such as this one, as well as it being a renovation, we're suggesting a 10% contingency, which is going to put us at around $218,000. We also are carrying 3.5% of the construction cost for an owner's project contingency. That's practically to carry any of the soft costs that we talked about, whether it's fiber, computers, or technology that maybe pop up that we didn't account for with our original bids as a contingency. So these would be things that we'd be tracking. If anything was leftover surplus, would go back to the town at this point. So with the project total, we were right around $3.36 million. What we had for our original budget last year was about $3.25 million. So we are, relatively close to what we had thought a year ago. With the monies, and this may be a better explanation from Ryan, but from what was been allocated for this project already at a previous town hall meeting, which was $400,000, that will be deducted off of this total project budget in order for the ask at town meeting on May 7th. So the number that's going into the warrant for town meeting is under $3 million. I believe it's going to be $299 or $298 million that would be on the warrant on the article for town meeting.
So looking at the chart on the bottom.
Yep.
We are discounting the alternate, right?
Yeah. So I'll just do this because of the decision that the select board and the FinCom did on Monday. We would not be accepting the alternate. We will be keeping the base scope of replacing the roof.
Yeah, that makes it much more logical.
Yep.
Thanks.
No problem. So I've contacted the low bidder. We're just doing our vetting with them, reference checks as well. I've notified the owner as well. That's what we are doing and what the town schedule is in regards of town meeting and when ultimately a notice to proceed could be issued at that with the affirmative vote.
What's the name of the contractor?
Classic Construction.
Classic?
Correct. They are on Taylor Street.
We worked with them before, Brian,
I have.
Yep.
Yes.
the football field.
They did. Correct. They did the snack shack portion of the football field
And the ticket booth.
And then I also did the renovations to the Hildreth House in Harvard, that they actually did a really nice job at. That was about 5 years ago.
Okay, thanks. Any other questions for Brian?
Brian, this is Pete Church. Did you say what would be going to town meeting would be 2.9 or 3.1?
So I did rewatch the recording of the select board meeting on Monday, and it's my understanding that what's going to be asked is the 3.36 minus the $400,000 that's already been appropriated to this project. So the delta of that, which is going to put you in that 2.93, I believe is what it is.
2.966.
2.981.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Brian? All right, moving on to member input. Bob, anything?
I'm all set, Steve.
Stacy?
Oh, I'm good. Thank you.
Mike?
I'm all set, thanks.
Bartlett?
I'm all set. I want to remind you that I'm not going to be here in 2 weeks.
Okay, good to know. And the only item that I have, excuse me, is that Brian Pasquale is not going to re-up for the next term. His term is up, I think it's June 30th. So he may be joining us 1 or 2 more times before his term is up. So we probably should be looking for some additional volunteers to join our team.
Can I ask a question on that? Do you know if that's sorry, is by virtue of him leaving the PMBC, do we need to find a replacement for the Shaker Lane Building Committee for him as well?
That's a good question.
Okay.
Good question.
Yeah.
I don't have a good answer.
That's fine.
That's right. He was one of the PMBC members on that. Unless anybody else on this team want to volunteer?
Well, I'm on the Shaker Lane Building Committee. How many representatives do we need on PMBC for that?
I think we had
Yeah, we have
3, didn't we?
4.
4?
Yeah, I'm on it. I was on
Yeah,
it.
I know Mike's on it. Stacy's on it.
That's the whole board.
I'm on it.
And Brian.
Weren't we only obligated to have 3, Steve?
Sorry. Let me go back to the MSBA requirements for who's on the committee and get back to you guys on that.
Okay. Yeah, we have some time.
If I'm correct, Stacy, I think you might be on as a school committee member, not a PMBC member. I don't remember.
That could be.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
let me go check what that
Yeah.
configuration looks like and what MSBA is looking for.
Looks like Bartlett's
And then work
raising
from
his
that.
hand. Is that a hand that you're raising, Bartlett?
No, it's not.
Oh, okay. Just curious.
Just scratching something.
So I'll get back to you on the PMBC requirements. I mean,
Okay.
the MSBA requirements.
All right. Well, we do have some time, but a good question.
Steve, it all depends upon time constraints with me on it.
Okay. Well, it would be good to have you on it, Bob, if you have the capacity. So. All right. Anything else? Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Bob Romo, yes.
Mike Scaduto, yes.
Bartlett, yes.
Your turn, Stacy.
Stacy, yes.
Steve Moore, yes. Thanks. Thanks for your participation.
Yeah.
Have a
Thank
good
you guys
evening.
for all your work.
Thank you.